All right. So I've got a few things to talk about. I got a few things to show. The first one I'll show my work that I've been doing on my Skaifey. Just going through the years, how good was Skaifey? All the way back to 1987, his first race. Glenn Seaton was his teammate. George Fury also there. They were smashing everyone, but he drove a Nissan Gazelle, not in a Skyline. 88 in the same machinery as Glenn Seaton. Didn't out qualify him. 89, he wasn't part of the team. Well, Seaton was gone. But also they didn't run full time. No one really ran full time in 88 for Nissan. So this is just the one round that Skaifey did at Oran Park, and Cito was also there. There you go. Actually, this reminds me, I do need to. I need to rearrange things. I'm going to stop sharing for a second, and I'm going to pop out the chat just in case someone pops in. I'll stick that there. Put it like that. Right, that'll do. And then I'll share again. And then we'll just be able to go through things and talk about things. So, 1989, Skaifey's teammates with Jim Richards, and naturally Jim Richards smashes him all year long. Only time Skaifey beats him is if something goes wrong for Richo, which the only time that happened was at Winton. Then they also had George Fury, and which is an interesting one. So Skaifey beat George in that one. But yeah, didn't even beat George Fury. Like, he was the third best guy. Out qualified George at Winton, and not as fast in the last one, but 4 out of 8 rounds, 9th in the championship. It's back in 1989. Most of the people went full time. There will be a 12-car grid, and not all of those cars were full-time cars. Then you go at 1990, so this is when he has his full-time. Well, it's not even his first full-time season because he misses Tassie for some reason. Then you got some interesting stuff with the GTR R32 and the GTSR HR31. So, yeah, Skaifey's in the R32 for Malala. Looked like they were doing well for most of the year. Like, Richo was racking up the numbers, going to win the championship. Skaifey wasn't as fast as Richo, but just had like DNFs, did not qualifies, and then finally got one clean race, and then they gave him the Skyline, and then, which I guess they did for reliability's sake, like, and they had a hub failure, which I don't know what that means, but when I think hub, I think wheel hub, like the wheel just broke or something, but isn't a hub the thing that fits on the wheel? So I'm not really sure what that means, but yeah, we could probably look it up, try and find some 1990 Malala, and see what happened to Skaifey there. But just a lot of DNFs. He had 2 finishes? 6 stayed 6 and 13th up to 8th. So that was his best day. That was as good as it got for him. Even though he did more rounds, he was driving what? Even like the HR31 was unreliable. He just had a lot of unreliability for some reason. Richo, on the other hand, had no unreliability. So maybe that was something to do with the team. 1991, Skaifey finally. Hang on. The Skaifey out-qualified Richo a couple of times there. Lakeside out-qualified in the H31. And then when he had the R32, obviously he qualified Richo, but I think looks like Richo had a bad qualifying session for some reason, just made a mistake or something. And then R32 for Richo for the next two races of the year, which they probably needed to make sure he locked down the championship. Then it's pretty interesting, 1991. So you can see it as it happens. They start off Richo smashing Skaifey, but then late in the year, Skaifey starts out qualifying and out racing Richo. So apart from this amazing performance from Richo at Amaru, 22nd to second. And you'll see Richo starts to decline a bit, especially once they switch to the V8 era. It just stops. The results just stop happening. He keeps getting good results, but not great results. And Skaifey becomes a guy from this point, from Amaru 1991. Skaifey just starts becoming better. But obviously Skaifey second the championship, which I locked up championship there, and Mark Gibbs, got hold of an R32 for himself, and his results. It's always interesting looking at his results, like who's cheating, who's not cheating. It's funny. It sort of looks like that looks like that in 1992, where it's like, oh, okay, they had a bad qualifying session. It's like you sort of expect them to be dominating because the Nissans were really good. But in 92, they did have some. They had like a weight penalty. They had they weren't allowed to win. So it just seems sort of funny. It's like, oh, we're really struggling, and then boom, they just switch it on for Winton and just smash everyone. The same here, like Amaru, like, oh, we came third. Oh, that was a good result for the team, and then bang, wins 1-2. Then you got Richo seemed to struggle more than Skaifey for sure. But yeah, it's racking up plenty of podiums, but Skaifey was definitely the guy. And Mark Gibbs was an interesting one because he got a couple of podiums. That's all he got. Third here, third there, third there. And it's always like a 1, 2, 3. Well, apart from that one. Got a blown head gasket for Richo. But it's like the first round of the year, Amaru, they're like, oh, we came third and fourth, it's a good result for us. We weren't really expecting to be up there. And then the next race is a 1, 2, 3. Just immediately. So it's funny. But yeah, Skaifey out qualifies Richo big time. Just most of the time, Skaifey's out qualifying him. So yeah, and then for some reason at Lakeside, Mark Gibbs runs a VN Commodore rather than a Skyline. So I don't know what happened there, but he just didn't. He didn't have a Skyline, so yeah, I didn't put him down there. And when we talk about great drivers and how good they are, you look at their performances. Like, what does how do their recoveries go? You got 14th up to 3rd from Richo. It's a good drive. 10th and 11th up to 5th. That's not really that impressive. 12th up to 4th. That's a bit better. And Skaifey only had one bad day, which was Lakeside, the second race, 21st up to 7th. Which I guess they had separate qualifying sessions there, or a reverse grid. Don't know. He might have been forced to start from the back because of some sort of issue. But yeah, 6th in the championship for Mark Gibbs there. 1993, the V8 era. So it starts to get interesting here. And I got some question marks in there, and that's because I don't have the stats on the qualifying positions, and that's probably because of the Peter Jackson, what do you call it? They had like a race for pole. That's what they used to do. So if you didn't start in the top 6, it just didn't tell you for certain races. And so you got quite a few question marks for Richo there. And Richo wasn't too bad, but his best qualifying performance is the second race at Winton. Oh, no, hang on. Looks like a front row lockout for the team at Perth. The second race there, which is good. 1993, there's a fair bit of footage out there, but not as much as you might be hoping for. I'm gonna put because I couldn't actually see the chat because I didn't have it up. Anyway, so yeah, Skaifey just racking up poles like an animal. And Richo not so much. He's really struggling with the V8. Then you go to 1994, where I don't know why I organized it like that. I think it's because this is just the way I was. Like usually it's progressive grids. So the way they finish in the first race dictates the starting position for the second race. But so that's just the way I did it. Then you go to 1994 where I fixed it. So yeah, lots of question marks for Richo, not so much for Skaifey, and I think it's because, especially in '94, the race for the grid, the Peter Jackson, I think they call it Dash for Cash, whatever it was called, was a race they did to dictate the first top. I think it was the top 6 starting positions, or top 10 starting positions, something like that. Which I think was it 1993 or something, or 94 or 97. No, hang on, it must have been 93 or 94. Glenn Seaton would always qualify on pole position, but he'd lose positions in the Peter Jackson Dash. And then Peter Brock would, like, I think it was how, there was something like that. I can't remember the story, never mind. Yeah, plenty of poles for Skaifey. He won the championship. He basically he swept the first 6 races, and it was just on the podium every round, apart from a terrible a terrible Perth and a terrible Oran Park, and still won the championship. Richo not so much. Got a couple of podiums there, but didn't really have a great round there. Apart from this one, Lakeside was pretty good to Richo. Beat his teammate, which is what you want to see, but not a great time otherwise. 1995. Now this one was influenced by tyres. So 1995 Gibson Motorsport. The Yokohama factory, I think, was impacted by a tornado or something, or a cyclone. And so they couldn't, they were short on tyres. So there are just some races where they just not getting the performance that you'd be used to and be expecting for 95 for the reigning champions. But Skaifey definitely was able to put the car in the right position when it was possible. Don't know what happened to Richo at Bathurst. I think he must have had some sort of crash in qualifying or something. Mike Spearwood, when did Hidden Valley get its first gig as a venue? 1998. I can skip to there actually. Yeah. Not a great time for Skaifey and Richo, but yeah. I actually watched a bit of 1998 last night, and it was hectic. I think it was Bargwana put Bridie off at the last corner and just shoved him off. I think it was him. It's like, yeah, it was Bargs and Bridie battling. Yeah. Yeah, any other questions, let me know. So I've been talking about Gibson Motorsport, and this is in particular what we've got here is Mark Skaife's career. So I've worked my way from 1987 to 1995, and yeah, plenty of little stories here. But 1995 was mainly dictated by tires. The tire situation for Gibson Motorsport wasn't great with the Yokohamas, and Richo, like Jim Richards, just not having a great time at all. Just not nowhere near where he should have been. I don't think he's even got one top 3 finish at all. Yeah, terrible. So 1996 he's gone, but I didn't realize that he actually showed up for Bathurst in 1996 for the round that they did. But he didn't get to do that round, just like he didn't get to do it in 95 either, which is an interesting one. So, so yeah, it's a single car team for Skaifey in 1996. He was able to get some pretty decent results. I think by this stage, Holden Racing Team had poached a whole bunch of people from Gibson Motorsport. And so, obviously, this is the year that Craig Lowndes dominated the championship. And Gibson Motorsport is a shadow of what it used to be as the dominant Nissan team. And even the 1994 champions, they just don't have the ability to win championships anymore. And Skaifey stuck around out of loyalty. And he obviously got pretty fortunate later on when he joined HRT and started racking up race wins and championships for himself. But 96 wasn't too exciting. Definitely got a few top 3s, but bit of misfortune, spins off here, mechanical failure, not a great qualifying. And Skaifey is known for being just an incredible qualifier. If we go back to 95, he's got a couple front row starts. Further back, more poles, but the results just dry up by the time we get to 97. And he didn't even contest the full championship in 97. But when he was there, you knew about it because he was always able to run up the front. Apart from Eastern Creek, not a great time there. And lots of bad luck. A lot of, I think, a few of the things I noticed is that Skaifey would get pretty desperate sometimes. He'd just have, like, he crashed at Malala in 95. I'm not sure what the situation was, but to me it feels like a bit of desperateness. Like, oh, I've got to make the most of this situation and then just screw it up rather than bank some points. So that was just what he used to be like. And so you've got a bit of that here in 1997 where he's just crashed at Malala and not really written it off, but just put it in a situation where he couldn't even drive the thing in the next race because of the damage. And then they've got the other car in 1997 is Darren Hossack, fully funded for the year by Wins Australia, whereas Skaifey's got barely any. But they did have the Sega Saturn livery. So that was pretty cool. And they also had, I think it was what they call it, the V8 1000 or whatever they called it for Bathurst, because this is when the 2 litres had their own Bathurst, and then the V8s had their own Bathurst. So it's just a bit of, and so they sponsored Skaifey's car for, I think it was for Malala. So they would have probably got plenty of replays of Skaifey's car because that crash, and the drive from 20th up to 8th. There's nothing to sneeze at either. But yeah, at the end of 1997, Skaifey moves to Holden Racing Team. He's just had enough of it. Gibson survived by taking the Holden Young Lions deal with Steve Ellery. They have Darren Hossack again with Wins Australia, and then also Darren Pate with Wins Australia as well, I think. But that's the end of it for Skaifey. He moves to HRT, which is a bit of an interesting time because he got Skaifey versus Lowndes, and Skaifey's once again throwing it away under pressure. In the first race, second dropped to 7th. Maybe he just didn't get the start right and he dropped because there were some races in 98 like Malala. Starts first and just bombs it immediately. Just what car won't go. Starts way down the back. Well, drops down the order and has to pick up the pieces and drive his way back up. And he got excluded, and I think it was because I did watch it. I think it was yesterday because they put the wrong tires on the car. They just put the wrong tires on the incorrectly marked tires, and oh no, you don't get to be classified, so you don't get any points. So that probably would have hurt Skaifey quite a bit. But then you've also got really bad qualifying here at Lakeside, whereas Lowndes out-qualifies him. So you do think, Skaifey's such a gun qualifier, he'd be out-qualifying Lowndesy, and he was. It was 60-40. Lowndesy was no slouch, but I think once Lowndes realizes that Skaifey is really good as a qualifier, Lowndes starts getting really good too. So he stops mucking around because he knows he's got a really serious teammate who wants the title badly. So Lowndesy definitely starts pulling out some incredible performances. I think what was it? I think they don't have 1998 Perth on the Supercars YouTube channel, but they do have Calder Park. And so Lowndes are just sort of smashing him. Skaifey manages not to throw it away, which, how many times does he throw it away? Sandown looks like he's thrown it away. Winton, he threw it away. Mallory threw it away. And the other times he just didn't qualify well enough. Lakeside, that's just bad. How do you do such a bad job? He just screwed up qualifying, looks like. You got Murph there in the VT at Calder Park. Chris in the car with some dents. And then I think Lowndesy got that. I don't know if he got that specific car, but he got the VT at the next round at Darwin. Where I think, did Lowndesy have a bad start? I think Lowndesy had a bad start, got eaten up, and then carved his way back through the field and got the win. And then that second race, for some reason, both HRT cars just did not start. It's such a fluke. And because of that, they both start down the back. So it's who's better, Skaifey or Lowndesy? And it was definitely Lowndesy. He went from 26 to 6, up 20 positions, whereas Skaifey 27th up to 9th, up 18 positions. So they were both great, but Lowndesy was definitely really good as well. And obviously Lowndesy locked away the championship. So 1998, Skaifey started off really well, out qualifying Lowndesy, and then Lowndesy just turned it on immediately, just started racking up those front rows and just smashing him. But maybe Skaifey was just having a bad time, I don't know. And then Skaifey starts turning it on back. Cam McConville obviously drove the VS. They had, after Lowndesy's rollover at Calder, McConville replaces him for the next round at Tassie and drives a VS Commodore. And then when Lowndesy comes back, he's driving a VS Commodore. And I think we saw a few streams ago, we watched Gold Coast 1998. They were running VSs there as well. And what was cool is you'd have the VS livery, where you got the blue at the front and the red at the back. And then you got the VT livery, which is red at the front, blue at the back. That was a very cool thing that they did. Just making a distinct livery. Then we got, was it 2000? Yep. So Lowndesy obviously off to a great start. Lowndesy actually did better than I thought. I thought that he just wasn't any good in 2000, but it looks like he had quite a bit of bad luck. Car overheating in the second race at Phillip Island when he should have won, but the car just broke down on him. Then he just sweeps around at Perth. Fourth up to first in what do you call it, in the first race at Adelaide. Skaifey just gets unlucky, spark plug failure, and then last to first for Skaifey. Meanwhile, Lowndesy has an engine failure, so just bad luck there. Both cars have got bad luck, but Lowndesy has 2 DNFs, whereas Skaifey's only got the 1. So Skaifey was up ahead and just third down to 18th. Don't know what happened there at Eastern Creek. Actually, I do. That was the one where Radicic just punted Lowndesy off. Hang on, no, that's not right. No, Lowndesy got a penalty because he punted Radicic off. I was going to say that's not right. Yeah. So there's that one. Then you got Darwin. Great round for Skaifey. The only thing he didn't get was the pole. And Lowndesy just second dropped to 22nd to spin. Shocker. And so he was on the clawback and just not able to. He was just losing too many positions there. Swept Queensland there. Skaifey sitting pretty in second. Skaifey had a crash in the first race at Winton and then a charge up to 14th up to third. Lowndesy just got a bit of bad luck there. They do charges through the field and obviously brilliant teammates, but just a bit of struggle street. For some of these results. But then down here on the right, you got Todd Kelly in the Holden Young Lions entry. And he's done a few good performances as well. And later on, we see Rick Kelly driving the Holden Young Lions car. And Rick's results are much more impressive than Todd's. But you got to think, is the 2000 HRT car better than the 2002 HRT car? Because they might not have as good cars, in 2000 as they do in 02. So is Todd better? Is Rick better? It's difficult to say, but we obviously do get later on some very good comparisons between Skaifey and Todd, and Skaifey definitely shows that he's got it where it counts, and he's very good. Then you got 2001. So Skaifey won his first title for HRT in 2000. He obviously won the title in 92, 94, and then there we are in 2000. Hang on, 2001 is where we want to go. Skaifey versus Bright. And I thought, was Brighty that good? 01, he's just not that good. He's just qualifying way too far down the order. The number of times he qualified in the top 10. He started fixing it. Excuse me. From Perth, starting in the 10 in every race, but he had at the start of the year it's bad. I think Darwin was pretty good for Brighty. I think did he win the round, or did he almost win the round in 01? Might have been Ambrose. I think Ambrose's first round win might have been Darwin. But obviously Brighty, I think, did Brighty win the first Darwin round in 98? Maybe. He was third, I think. I think Lowndesy got the thing. 98 Lowndes. Not Lowndes. Must have been third. So, okay, must have been Brighty won it from Bargs from Lowndes. No, hang on. It can't have been Lowndes. Never mind. I'm getting confused with Calder Park where it rained out. And I'm just thinking of those three guys who were running up the front. Yeah, Brighty just wasn't as good as Skaifey. Which, I mean, should you really expect Brighty to be anywhere near Skaifey? If in a HRT car though, he should be qualifying at least within the top 4 if Skaifey's on pole, which just wasn't happening. He was too far off regularly. But he fixes it up for 02. 01, you've also got Paul Romano, who used to run his Holden Young Lions for his own team, I think. But here in 01, they actually ran under the Holden Racing team. But he's just qualifying terribly. But then Rick Kelly comes along, qualifies down the back just like Paul Romano. Mechanical failure there, 30th up to 22nd. That's not really anything to write home about. Then 22nd up to 7th, which I think might have been a wet race. That last one there, which is the one that Todd Kelly actually won his first round at Sandown. I think Steve Ellery won a race, but Todd Kelly took the round. It looks like Skaifey was in the mix there until he had a crash in that third race. So Bridie ended up probably outscoring him just on points. And yeah, Rick Kelly 22nd up to 7th, and then they gave him the keys to a Kmart car for or they gave him a full-time seat for O2. You'll see here you got Skaifey. Bridie has definitely tidied up his qualifying. Nice, way better than it was before. And then you got Rick just not quite getting it together, but then late in the year, so qualifying 8th, 28th to 8th, starts racking up top 10s and qualifying really well. It was very impressive, and got his first top 3 at Pukekohe in the 3rd race there. And just mechanical failures going on for. It was sort of funny. You see that once Skaifey had pretty much pulled such a gap in the championship because he won the first 5 rounds in a row. After then, he just starts having some bad results. So you got throttle failure here, sweeps Oran Park, okay at Winton, engine failure at Queensland, smashes everyone at Bathurst in the Golden Child, terrible time at Gold Coast, wins the first race at Pookie, and then terrible time for the next 2 races. And same deal with Bridie. Watts link failure, electrical failure, dropping buckets of positions, mechanical failure. So a lot of struggle there for HRT. In terms of componentry. 2003 is when Todd Kelly makes his glorious return, and Skaifey just smashes him for 8 rounds straight. And I'm sorry, why am I tired? All right, Todd just doesn't. He has a bit of bad luck there. Radio failure, excluded from Winter for some reason. By the time he gets his first top 3, Skaifey's already had 4 podiums, 4 top 3 finishes. So 2nd and 1st at Perth, 2nd and 1st at Adelaide. And Skaifey racks up some more results there. I think he just seems to get unlucky there. Not like he's starting on pole and having it the way he used to be, where he just used to drop positions. Eastern Creek, not really sure what happened there in 03. But not a great time for him. But yeah, and then you got that one there at Perth. Don't know what happened there. I think he had some sort of issue with the car. And that was the end of it for him. And that was the round where he found out he was the owner of HRT. So it took a while to find out because Holden bought HRT at the start of 03, and then they sold it to Skaifey. I can't remember the exact amount because he did actually tell us the exact amount that he paid for HRT. People were telling stories like, "Oh, he bought it for $1." No, he paid millions for HRT. But yeah, not the best time there. And then just went into Eastern Creek the last round there. Qualified at 1st and drops position down at 7th, 8th to crash, and this was the where he got turned into the wall by Russell Engel. I think Russell was just frustrated or something. He just put Skaifey in the fence. So yeah, but you do see eventually Todd starts out qualifying Skaifey. He starts pulling a Skaifey there like he does at Gold Coast and drops down at 10th and then crashes. But by this point, it's not really a Skaifey because Skaifey doesn't drop positions anymore. He just racks up incredible results. 2004 was particularly unreliable, but Skaifey shows he's still got the goods. He's destroying Todd in qualifying constantly. Todd's qualifying did improve though. 03 he was top 10, not too bad. 04 he was more often up the pointy end, a bit more. So 5th, 2nd, 3rd, 2nd. 03, it's second, and then that was as good as it gets. The rest of the time, he's down the back of the 10. Because I've been defending Todd for a while. I was going to go through 07 before I started the stream, but I didn't end up having the time to do it. And so I wanted to look at 07 to see if maybe Todd switched it on and started beating Skaifey. Because I used to think that that Skaifey wasn't as good as Todd, but no. Todd was beating him in the championship, and Skaifey was just having bad luck. So from 04 onwards, Skaifey's just not he's not getting the results he should be getting. He has 12th in the championship and just dropping positions. Not exactly sure what happened in these races. Darwin and Pookie, probably just issues with the car or something. Maybe clutch issues, something like that. But just, it's not like he's doing a bad job as a driver. He's just having issues constantly. And that's why like Todd ends up further up in the championship, because he's just not having those issues quite as often. But obviously, because he's not qualifying quite as well, he's not able to capitalize on those results. 05 was interesting because I thought that Todd was mounting a title challenge in 05, but he wasn't really. He was for a couple of rounds, and that was about it. He started off so badly. He's qualifying in the first 3 rounds, 15th, 20th, and 15th. Just does not score the points he needs. Like, there's some good points there in the first 3 races. Then he crashes. That doesn't help him. He scores barely any points for the next few races. Then he gets another top 10. And then he starts clawing it back from Eastern Creek onwards, until he has a gearbox failure at Oran Park. But within that time, you got Skaifey's obviously putting it up the front where it should be, getting lots of podiums as well. So Skaifey had every right to be fighting for the championship that Todd had. And after Bathurst, Skaifey was beating Todd, especially after this oil line failure for Todd. Skaifey is running up the front, pulls ahead of Todd. Then Skaifey has a bit of a shocker here. That 25th probably hurt him the most there, because it was very tight, very close in the points. But yeah, it's not like Todd was really that close. He was hundreds of points off of the leaders of the championship. He didn't lead it. And I always say it's easier to lead the championship early in the series, because you can just have a couple of great rounds and boom, you're well ahead of everyone. But you have to carry that across the year. It's not like I wouldn't call it a title challenge if you're in the top 3 after the first 2 rounds. That's not the same as being in the top 3 with 2 rounds to go. That's a title challenge. So my revelation is that I wouldn't really count 05 as a challenge for Todd, because Skaifey was a lot better. He just had a bit of bad luck there in 05. Is that progressive grid for Perth? Not reverse grid. No, that was 06. They had reverse grids. But yeah. I think this one's the one where he locked up with Ambrose and went into the sand. And that one at China, not sure what happened there. I think he had some sort of issue and that was it. So he actually had every chance of winning that round as Todd until that 3rd race. And then you got Darwin as well, where Todd just beats Skaifey. Even though Skaifey got pole at Darwin, Todd just beat him in both races. And then Skaifey has some sort of issue, and that's the end of it. I need to highlight that, because that is a solo drive around. I don't highlight the ones where they're both in the same car. But usually Skaifey would qualify instead of Todd because Skaifey was just way better at qualifying. But Todd starts switching it on after Bathurst, starts out qualifying Skaifey, or maybe Skaifey just has a bit of bad luck, not doing a good enough job because 6 is not typical for Skaifey. Top 4 is pretty much where he should be, and you can see he only does that a couple of times. 4th at Bathurst, 3rd at Gold Coast, and stays on the podium for all of Gold Coast. And then just not great for Tassie or Phillip Island. And once you're qualifying further down the back, you're going to have an even worse time if you get in other people's issues. But 2006, it's a rough one. So obviously, in that first race, if you watch it, Skaifey has a bad pit stop to begin with, and then later crashes, and then the next day he crashes as well. But he'd already started down the back anyway. Then Pookie was just straight up good because he won both of the main races and he came 5th in the reverse grid race. He started 27th, moved up to 5th. And while you say, oh, that should be easy because he's in the 2006 HRT car, he should be driving up to 5th. Plenty of guys in reverse grid race, plenty of like main top drivers in top teams would get in incidents in the reverse grid races just unnecessarily. And Skaifey was one of those guys because you can see here at Perth, 31st up to 18th, that's not really that great. 24th up to 17th, that's not that great. 31st up to 28th, that's also not that great. They're just not able to get back through the field, but he did it at Pookie. And maybe that's just because of the back straight, just passing people so much easier. Whereas at Perth, I mean, at Perth, you got the bowl, you should be able to, or Cobb Corner, I think it's called, you should just be able to pick people off every lap, but he just he wasn't quite able to do that. So all of it's on YouTube, so it'd be worth checking out, for seeing if he actually just made mistakes or just had bad luck. Queensland was unlucky. He got a penalty, dropped the 21st, won the reverse grid race, and then dropped the 27th over some other issue. And just had a shocker. And he just starts having shockers from Queensland onwards. Gearbox failure the first race at Oran Park, so not his fault. And then he wins the reverse grid race. But because of that DNF in the first one, he starts down 23rd. And I think he has some other issue and finishes 23rd. Obviously, he had terrible luck at Sandown and Bathurst that year. First dropped to 26th. First to crash. Obviously got rear-ended by Jack Perkins. But by the time that happened, he'd already had a clutch failure on the start line, and it wasn't going to get better from there. Gold Coast, really bad qualifying. Not sure what happened. There might have been some sort of issue in qualifying, but he started 13th, and Todd started on pole. So Todd really switched it on after Bathurst, but Todd was starting to have a really strong run. From Oran Park onwards, he had a really crappy start of the year, where he was outside the top 10 for most of the year until he wins that first race at Oran Park. Has some bad luck in the third one, but then he's second, and then wins around at Gold Coast, and then top maybe he's on the podium at Tassie, but he was right up there, and just keeps on racking up finishes, top 5 finishes constantly. And that's what gets him up to 6th in the championship, whereas Skaifey just has ferociously bad luck. Tassie, I can't remember what happened at Tassie. I think he had a bad pit stop and then the next one, he had that bad pit stop, and because of how short the races were, starts 16th for the next one, gets involved in some other incident, and which means he starts further down the back, and then there's suspension failure in the next race. Just a bad time. I think something happened in Bahrain as well. Not sure, but he might have done it himself. I think he dive bombed someone and just like, no, that was a stupid move, Skaifey. You screwed up. So then we get up to 07, and I haven't got through 07 yet. So yeah, that's what I got going for that. Meanwhile, I'm gonna show off my SVG one, because I actually finished an SVG one. Talk about how good was SVG. this is gonna be pretty interesting. So go ahead, we'll get rid of the Skaifey one. Okay, apparently I haven't saved that. And I need to bring up the chat in case someone wants to say something. And there. And then I start sharing the SVG one. Boom. Where are we doing? I need that up, and then I need this up. All right, so this is 2023. We're going to go way back to 2007 with SVG. So he's in the TKR, Team Kiwi Racing car, and he's come in. I can't remember. My usual guy who comes in told me what car it was, but I can't remember if it was an FPR car, because that's what Team Kiwi had at the start of 07 with Paul Radisich, and they had negotiations. Paul was just not interested. He had some sort of promise on what they were able to provide him, and he was just negotiating. He was trying to get out of his contract, get out of TKR. And so then they didn't race for a couple rounds in the middle of the year, and then they came back with Shane Van Gisbergen, who was, I guess, on lease from Stone Brothers. And so, yeah, and he did a really good job. Look at that second race at Oran Park. I mean, he's just coming up through the field doing a great job. That third one, I mean, 7th. He started 7th in the third race at Oran Park. Dropped the 23rd, which is like, that's where that car should be anyway. But getting some top 15s, pretty impressive, especially for a rookie. But yeah, just some really great drives through the field. He was not qualifying very well, but he was racing really, really well. So especially there, that last round at Phillip Island, start 16th, much better start than what he'd done before. You could say Paul Radisich was probably more able to get those sorts of results if they were driving the same car, but obviously the Rat was a much more experienced Supercars driver than Shane Van Gisbergen was, because this is SVG's first time in a supercar. He's just not used to how you're supposed to look after the tires, how to get a lap out of a car. That was what Paul Radisich was able to do. But in that last round at Phillip Island, he's just done a really good job, just keeping it in there. 14th, dropped down to 17th, but that's fine. It's not too bad. But yeah. And because of the point scoring system, he's 43rd in the championship because the top 15 score points. It was a stupid system. So yeah, 2008, he moves to Stone Brothers and gets absolutely destroyed by James Courtney, as you expect. James Courtney is much more experienced driver, and he's in his third year. His first and second years were very impressive. His third year is just as crash happy as the first two, but you'd place your bets on JC rather than SVG, because it's SVG's second year. He's not really used to getting his results. He doesn't really beat JC very often. Not really. Like, what was that, 12th in the first race at Adelaide? I think something happened to JC there. Probably because he was racing too hard and got caught up in an incident. How's that crash with Lounsey? But you got SVG came 5th in that second race. Stone Brothers were really happy with that and gone, this is our guy. This is why we've got him. And he's just able to pick up top 10s when they're coming his way, and he's not driving too badly. He's just like, yeah, this is about as good as I can do at the moment. He's not doing anything too shocking. Yeah. And then they sign Alex Davison to replace James Courtney. And so they wanted a bit more of an experienced driver alongside SVG. But SVG beats Alex Davison. And speaking of Alex Davison, his years in the sport, he didn't really feel like he got much of a chance. But his 3-year stint at Stone Brothers, that was his chance. Where he really needed to be able to capitalize, and they gave him such an opportunity. Um, by keeping him those 3 years, and especially in 2011, you can see he really starts to qualify better. But anyway, in 2009, SVG's beating Alex Davison constantly. Some of these times, you got these two races at Hamilton. Alex Davison's the guy that particular round. You got Jason Bright in the customer entry. Got some sort of, I think his car was prepared by Stone Brothers. But not in the same garage. Not exactly sure on the details, but he has his own garage. Not sure if it was next to the Stone Brothers though. So then you can see SVG just doing a better job most of the time. Some of these results here, like you got the second race here at Tassie, something happened to SVG. You can tell 11th down to 20th. You don't do that by accident. Something's happened there. And then the second one here at Darwin, I think it's a soft tyre race because I had some weird thing with soft tyres in 09. And same sort of deal we had in 2010 as well. But then SVG is out qualifying Alex Davison most of the time. And a lot of the time, Alex is just dropping spots or just not racing into a better position. He should be out qualifying SVG, but by this point, the last time Alex Davison was in the car was in a full-time entry. It was 2005. So, you can't blame him for not being all that good. He wasn't all that bad, but he wasn't all that good. It's not like he was qualifying dead last every race, but sometimes he was. So 2009 was actually the first time that they had separate qualifying sessions. So if you screwed up in one of the races, you just start again the next day. The one kicker that I thought was interesting is that those first two races at Adelaide, where you do one qualifying session, counts for the first two races, and so if you have a great first race, the second one might not be as good, or it might be better, but it sort of screws you where if you go, oh, we've got a much faster car for the second race, but you're still starting from the position you're in before. So, oh dear. I'll drink some water. And Bridie was able to out-qualify both of them on occasion. He started to get really good at the end of the year. Once he really worked it out, he was able to qualify in the top 10 on occasion as well. Got 8th at Townsville, 9th at QR, second front row start at QR. I'd love to see that race. Pole at Phillip Island. I think there is actually footage of him getting pole at Phillip Island. But yeah, definitely does to out-qualify the other guys. But look, SVG's having a bit of a struggle there as well. 19th in the second race at Gold Coast. Then 19th, 22nd, 15th, 19th. Not a great run there for SVG. But still beats both of them in the championship. Just driving better. In 2010. And so he's got second-year driver Tim Slade. He's got Alex Davison back for his second year with Stone Brothers. And it's really sad. He got Alex Davison puts the car on pole at Darwin and then has an electrical failure. It's just got to be so frustrating. And he had a pretty good start there at Abu Dhabi, but his qualifying performance really let him down like a lot of the time. He was really struggling to get the most out of that car in qualifying trim. Whereas SVG would regularly qualify better than Alex Davison, but also he would race into further up spots. So in 2010, SVG just starts racking up podiums. Third. third, second, third at the last race of the year. It starts getting those results. So he was very impressive straight away, and he carried that on. He was like a Brock Feeney as well, except he was more able to move the car up and up positions, I think, than Brock Feeney. But obviously, we're going to get first-hand view of that when we get up to that. So, yeah, 2010 was pretty good. For SVG, really put him in the spotlight. Went from 12th in the championship to 6th in the championship. Had that great race against Jamie Wink up at the Gold Coast. Put him on the map. Yeah, just missed out on a win a couple of times. Pretty disappointing for him. Tim Slade, he had some times where he was pretty good. Not so much in 2010. And didn't get a first podium until 2011, where you can see Alex Davidson starts to get a lot better at qualifying in the top 10. Just a lot more top 10 qualifyings, and it's much better performances for him, and racing a lot better. Comes 11th in the championship, which is a much better result for him, because I think 2010 he was 21st in the championship. Like, he should not be doing that. He was 16th in his first year, 21st in his second year, which not great. Yeah, like, starts to improve quite a bit here in the late part of the year. Maybe there's a bit of bad luck, but it shouldn't be that bad. 2011 he really, really improved. SVG though was just like, when they needed him, he was there. Bit of bad luck on a few occasions, but nailed his first win at Hamilton on home soil, and then got another one at Darwin, 12th up to first. Like, he's not getting these from the front row of the grid. In fact, it looks like he doesn't get in the front row of the grid. And you see over time, Stone Brothers stopped being a team that can get on the front row of the grid. You got one front row there, pole position there for James Courtney. 2009, they've got what? No one. Well, Bridie got a couple. So I don't know. It might have been a Stone Brothers car that Bridie was driving there, and they probably used that same car for Tim Slade the next year. But obviously, Bridie was a very good driver at the time as well. For his own team, he was very impressive. And at FPR, when he was there, he was very impressive there as well. But we saw earlier in this stream, looking at with Mark Skaifey, that Bridie wasn't that good in his first year at HRT. He tidied it up a lot in 2002. But Bridie also said that HRT was a lot better off. It was a lot better when he left it than when he first showed up to drive for them. So if it's a Stone Brothers car that Bridie had, he was able to put it on the front row a couple of times, so it was pretty good. I don't think SVG managed to do it. Yeah, maybe he's not quite ready in 2009. But Alex Davison didn't do it at all. 2010, SVG does it once. Once he puts it on the front row. Sometimes the Stone Brothers cars were just not that good anymore. And some of these results are really telling. Like, they don't really have these incredible cars anymore. But yeah, you got what? We had a front row at Bahrain and a pole at Darwin. A bit of flash in the pan sort of stuff. Tim Slade starts third for that first race at Darwin, so pretty close, but no one's consistent enough. But 2011, obviously, Alex Davison starts to improve his qualifying performances. And there's no front row starts here for SVG either. Tim Slade, though, does stick it on the front row for Queensland. So that was very impressive. Queensland was a weird one. You got the first two races are progressive grids, and then the next one is a qualifying one, another separate qualifying. So it's a bit of a weird system there. Pretty unique for the time after a few years of having specific qualifying sessions per race. So yeah, the Stone Brothers cars just weren't quite up to scratch there. And they get rid of Alex Davison despite his improvements, and they put Lee Holdsworth in the car. And Lee wasn't too bad. He had a bit of bad luck for a few races here. He just has like a bad run of second race at Townsville, the whole of Queensland, and the whole of SMP, where he's just bad luck in 2012 here. And Lethal would have come in with a lot of hype. People going, oh yeah, he's finally in like a factory team or something, and he's gonna really challenge for the championship. I'm pretty sure that's what he wanted to do at Stone Brothers. But obviously their incumbent SVG was pretty damn good, so you'd have to be pretty impressive to be beating SVG. So yeah, it wasn't going to happen too easily for Lethal. So you got two front rows for SVG all season. I don't think Lethal puts it on the front row at all. He just has a couple of second row starts. Whereas Tim Slade does get his first pole at Sydney Olympic Park. But the rest of the year, not great. Just coming up through the back of the field to get his results, really. And obviously in 2012, SVG negotiated to get out of his contract because he didn't want to drive for Erebus Motorsport. He thought they were going to be rubbish. Lee Holdsworth's a bit more excited about it. I can't really remember what he said in the Erebus documentary, but and was Tim Slade not interviewed? No, maybe he was, but they didn't put it in the final cut. But yeah, he drove in the first year for Erebus and did not have a great time, whereas Lee Holdsworth did. He struggled, but he was just like, I don't know. So yeah, Tim Slade beats Holdsworth and SVG in the championship, but it was mainly because SVG had just 3 DNFs in 4 races, 1 at Winton and 2 at Sydney Olympic Park. So bad time there. Bit of the same sort of deal with Holdsworth, but I think SVG was always going to beat him. Then we got 2013 at Techno for SVG, and I don't know if I've seen it anywhere, but Jonathan Webb was a very good driver. And I think that running his own team probably got in the way of him just becoming a really good Supercars driver. Running your own show probably takes a lot away from you, but you've got plenty of good results here from SVG. But there were some results where you go, why'd you have such a bad time? That first race at Austin, for some reason, SVG was just nowhere. 28th up to 26th, so he must have got spun or something in that first race. Whoa. So he's got double pole at Adelaide, pole at Townsville, and pole at Sydney. That's all the front rows he got there. Occasionally, Jono was able to out-qualify him and out-race him, but yeah, not setting the world on fire quite like SVG was by the time he really got going. But these Techno years, some of these races you go, really? He still came second in the championship? But his qualifying performances, it was close, but then you'd have these other rounds, he's just way down the order, like this Perth. What the hell was going on at Perth? He was having such a bad time. Second race at Adelaide, not sure what happened there. Obviously started 15th and did not improve from that result. Second race at Tassie, not sure. I haven't really seen much of 2014 though, so I don't really know what happened, but just on results, it's not looking great. And he still managed second in the championship, so if somebody else was more consistent, they probably would have done better. But look at this runner. run of consistency. That's 5 rounds of top 10s. That was really good. When you got a run like that, you really rake in a huge amount of points, and it's going to be hard for anyone else to beat. So that probably set him up for second in the championship. Getting some wins towards the end of the year definitely would have helped as well. Especially in the 2 race results there. He finished both races at Gold Coast. That would have definitely helped his point score. And getting triple top 10s at Sydney Olympic Park as well would have definitely helped. 2015 was not as good as I thought it would have been. Because you sort of think, oh yeah, SVG is really good. He'll drag the car up, but not really. His qualifying was pretty good, but he has quite a few stinkers there. Just dropping positions a few times there, and qualifying not too well on a couple of occasions. Like Townsville 25th. Not sure what happened there. But then this huge stretch here of top 10s, that would have set him up for 4th on championship. He must have been well down the order not well down the order, but he must have been down 10th or something. Then he goes 888 for 2016. And it's interesting here to look at the comparison with Jamie Whincup, because I think a lot of people probably think that SVG was just better than Whincup all the time, but it was pretty close. In qualifying trim, you usually say that SVG wasn't as fast as Whincup in qualifying, but that's not necessarily the case. And it seems a lot of the time it's a momentum thing. So once you get that good result again, you can start building from it. But if you're struggling, it's really hard to get out of that struggle. So SVG just struggled with consistency here. He's out qualifying his teammates a couple of times. Lowndesy was actually out qualifying him. Put it on the front row a couple of times. Queensland obviously just bolted off the front row and left everyone for dead. But yeah, a couple of front row starts. Oh, far. Sorry about that. Yeah, but Whincup got. It looks like in the pole department, Whincup starts racking him up from Townsville, whereas SVG got a couple at Darwin. So maybe the team was sort of struggling to get that first pole, break that duck. But I think you had drivers that were put, like, the first 2 poles of the year with DJR Team Penske, Scott Pye and Fabian Coulthard put the cars on pole. That 3rd race, I think, who was on pole on that one? Chaz Mostert, I think, got a pole at Adelaide. Might have been the first race of the year, and the 2nd and 3rd one were DJR Team Penske. Tasmania, you also got Scott McLaughlin in there. He might have got a pole, but I'm not sure. He definitely would have swept Phillip Island with poles, and maybe not poles. 2016 with the Volvo is not as good as people thought it was. He came 3rd in the championship on consistency, not on the incredible performance of the Volvo. That was more 2014, because that car was just a jet in 2014. Yeah, SVG's just not quite capitalising on these results, but also Whincup struggling a bit as well. Whincup has a good stretch here where he's just racked up some good results. And I think, who was the one who got who had the most top 10s in a row? Don't know if it was SVG, but this is a pretty damn good stretch here. This locked him the championship for sure, whereas Whincup definitely lost it at Sandown and Bathurst. And that one at Pookie there probably might have been the synchronized spinning. Not sure though. And yeah, SVG just needed to come 3rd in that first race to win the championship by this stage. So Whincup had just dumped a few too many points to SVG. Sandown, Bathurst. Obviously, Bathurst was a controversial redress one. Sandown, I can't remember what that was. Was that the seatbelts one or the belts one? Something like that. There was something happened. I think we pulled umbrella. I'm not sure exactly though. And Pukekohe might have been the synchronized spinning. But yeah, Landsy wasn't doing too bad. Definitely. No, some of these qualifying results were just not exciting, but other times he put the thing on the front row a few times, so he wasn't. What you wouldn't write him off. Then you got 2017. You see, SVG obviously came out swinging at Adelaide, but Whincup would swing back. So you got he wins. It's just it's each guy having a turn at being the top guy for the day, and Whincup was definitely making a charge for the title. Not sure what happened at Darwin 2017. That might have been a tyre failure because this was the year of the tyre failures. Looks like both of them got screwed over in that second race there, and Lowndes got it as well. I think the one that Lowndes had was he technically crossed the line first, but they counted him as I think he had like a penalty or something, and so they dropped him to 23rd after that. That was a bit of an unfortunate one there because he was having he did have a crash in I'm not sure if it was qualifying or whatever it was, but that might have been why he started 15th, but it wasn't unusual to see him qualify 15th anyway. But he's doing some incredible performance here, Lowndesy, dragging it up through the field. SVG, yeah, got that one at Phillip Island. Got this one at Darwin. Got this one at SMP where he gets spun by Scotty, I think. And Sandown, can't remember what happens. I think he crashes into someone or something. And Pukekohe, 2017 Pukekohe, yeah, I'm gonna have to jog my memory. I can't remember. That might have been one where he's got a big dent in the front of the car. That first race at Newcastle, yeah, I can't remember what the hell happened there. But SVG just sort of threw it away. 2018 though, in terms of his performances, he really switched it on. Doing a great job here. Albert Park, just having an Albert Park time, I guess. Just Whincup had a great start of the year. Transaxle failure in Adelaide though, so it didn't help him. But obviously bounced back and started just racking up results. Whereas SVG just had really bad qualifying those second two races of the AGP. Tassie was the stuck gear stick where he just couldn't get out of a certain gear, so he dropped down to 25th, which is 2018. That's what, second to last. So somebody must have had a DNF in that second race, and he was just the last one going around, staying out of the way, getting some points. Phillip Island was a lost wheel for Whincup, I think. I had a couple where it said lost wheel, but I don't remember what one it was. 2019, it was a lost wheel. All right. So, yeah, pretty even split for SVG and Whincup, really. But SVG definitely seemed to be the one that just, like, look at this. This is a stretch that wins you the championship, 2018. Except the one who actually got it with the most top tens in a row in the year was Scott McLaughlin. And he didn't. You could argue he didn't have the best car that year because they were in the FGX and the ZB was just destroying everyone, and just kept on racking up top tens, and that's how you win championships. Yeah, Whincup had some unlucky ones. Bathurst, the wheel fell off and he managed to carve his way back to 10th. That was impressive. 2018 Gold Coast, the first race happened. That was the thing that happened. Not sure what happened to Whincup there. He dropped down to 14th, but Man, I couldn't tell you what that was. Lowndesy though is doing some pretty solid drives for the field, but his qualifying is getting worse. I'd have to have more raw numbers to show whether it was better than the previous years, but he was getting some good top 10s, so that's why he ended up 4th in the championship. And when a result was on, he was able to get it. 21st up to 2nd at Gold Coast. Very good job. And obviously, it wasn't a shootout for his last race as well. They somehow managed to get the car to be good enough because they were struggling all weekend. Stephen Richards and Craig Lowndes at Bathurst, they just started off on struggle street, went through steering racks constantly, and eventually got the car somewhere close. At the start of Bathurst, it was a bit of a monster, but it just kept getting better and better as the race went on to the point where it was challenging for the win. Meanwhile, SVG and Whincup must have had trouble of their own because they should have been able to win. But yeah, from here, I don't know if I'd say that Whincup was doing worse, but SVG was doing better, getting better results there. Just on a couple of these occasions, the third car only beat him twice. He got once here in 2017 and more times in 2016. But 2019, it's still even split, where it's just like SVG will have a crack and do a good job, then Whincup will beat him, then SVG, then Whincup. Go on and on and on. And Whincup was the pole man. He was the one who was able to put the thing on pole. He got a lot of poles here towards the end of the year. SVG would get one occasionally, but he wasn't known for being an incredible qualifier. He was just known for being good enough to get the job done and being a really good race driver on the day. But obviously when you're driving for Triple Eight, getting on the front row and getting a few poles is pretty much what the expectations are. But if you're really good, like Whincup, he was just racking up front rows all the time. Especially in 2020 here, it was a bit of a renaissance sort of year for him. 2018 and 19, you'd say, oh, he's not the best. But 2020, he turned it back on and he was really firing, challenging to try and beat Scott McLaughlin to the championship. SVG was on the comeback a bit, but just not quite qualifying well enough to recover from that suspension failure at Adelaide. And had issues at Townsville, then starts winning races and getting some better results and driving his way through the field and then winning Bathurst while Whincup crashed, and that put him third in the championship versus fourth for Whincup. Whincup was second in the championship and then he crashed and then he was fourth. Whereas SVG was fourth, won Bathurst, finished third the championship. So yeah. 2021, Whincup was not setting the world on fire, but he wasn't doing it. He was still out qualifying SVG on plenty of occasions. And but obviously in 2021, SVG was just a beast and destroyed everyone. 22, pretty much the same, but obviously his teammate was rookie Brock Feeney, and Brock was doing. He wasn't doing the best job in the world. Well, actually, for a rookie, he was doing an incredible job because he was just banking top 10s constantly. The number of top 10s that he got in his rookie year was very impressive. But also, you can say, "Oh, it's Triple Eight carry. He should be getting top 10s all the time." But you've got some ferocious rivals in the field. You've got Anton De Pasquale, Will Davison, Cam Waters, pretty much everyone at Tickford you got to beat. You got Mostert at Walkinshaw. You've got you got some Brad Jones drivers. You got not Nick Perko, Andre Heimgartner in 22. Todd Hazelwood would have been in the mix on occasion as well. Who else? You've got the Team 18 guys that you got to be battling. So he had plenty of guys that would have battled pretty hard to get the results. So Feeney had to earn it for sure. He did a very good job of not screwing it up. That's pretty much the thing that can definitely be said the most about Feeney. And he did out-qualify SVG on a few occasions. SVG was known for demolishing his teammates in qualifying trim. That was just not something he was ever really able to do. Like, if we go back and just flick through it for a little bit, he was beating Alex Davison quite often, but it's Alex Davison, right? He put, it's pretty even here between three cars in 2011. 2012, though, pretty impressive for him. So he was no slouch. But he wasn't regularly destroying his teammates like a Greg Murphy or a Mark Skaifey. He wasn't like that. Or a Jamie Whincup, who was able to regularly out-qualify his teammates. So SVG did a really good job in 22 as well. 23, though, it's Brock Feeney. He just switches it on and starts beating SVG. And obviously, SVG was known for being a critic of the Gen 3 car and saying there were a lot of issues with Gen 3 car, and he didn't really like it very much. And constantly having issues and chassis changes, and just wasn't vibing well with it. And then he goes to NASCAR and he wins the race at Chicago, and then he leaves. And that's fine. He still came second in the championship. Still won Bathurst. Still pretty much went out on top as one of the best guys in the sport. Which is the way you want it to. It's the way you'd want it to end. And when he leaves, he's leaving SVG he's leaving Triple Eight in great hands with Brock Feeney, who won plenty of races, and he also got a few poles and challenged for the championship himself, and got more podiums than SVG in 23, I think, as well as more wins. So he definitely left it in a pretty good position. He just didn't have the consistency that of being able to stick the car in the top 10 regularly like SVG did, and that was what made the difference in the championship. Because I think it was after the bend or at the bend where SVG is just fifth every race. That's as good as he can get it. Whereas Brock Feeney doesn't get quite as close. Got a couple top 10s and then a bad race in that last one. And then obviously Bathurst, the freaking gear stick tower fails. And bad qualifying at Gold Coast. And then in a really good last round at Adelaide. Pretty much almost repeating the heroics of 2022 where he won his first race. So yeah, that was pretty good for SVG. Pretty good for Brock Feeney as well. So yeah, that's SVG. How good was SVG? He was a legend. How good was Skaifey? Skaifey was a legend. I haven't finished going through all the stats, so we'll see probably next time, where I'll see if because we think maybe Skaifey was only bad in 08. That's for my theory. In 07, I think he was still out qualifying Todd. Todd probably was on occasion a bit better. And Skaifey maybe started qualifying badly. The first race at Adelaide, he started 14th, and I thought, what are you doing starting 14th? No, it's not where he should have been starting. So yeah, there's that. All right. What else? So get rid of that. I might start going through some things on my phone. I've got little thoughts and things to talk about. That are good topics to talk about in terms of supercars. So I'll just go find my little notes and then we'll talk about them. The first thing I want to talk about that I've got in the description of this stream actually is talking about Cameron McConville and how good he was. And I think Cameron McConville just didn't get a chance in a top car. Obviously, he wasn't an amazing qualifying wizard like Greg Murphy, so he did get destroyed in '06. And in '07, I think he just got unlucky a few times, but I don't have the full details. Um, '05, I think it was. In '05, he was at Gary Rogers Motorsport doing a solid job, come 10th in the championship, which is the best championship result that he got in his career. But he wasn't really in a top line car, so you can't really say, "Oh, he was no good," because he wasn't at FPR, he wasn't at Stone Brothers, he wasn't at, HRT, HSV, um, think of other good teams of the era. Obviously never at Triple Eight, but he did have a chance to go to FPR. He had what was called a pre-contract. I'm not clear on details on motorsport contracts or any kind of contract that involves a pre-contract, but that was something that he had where he was able to be in serious negotiations with FPR to become one of their drivers for '06, before he moved to PWR and drove with Murph at Bathurst. That was his main reason for signing for PWR. So he must have been a bit of demand there, doing a great job at Gary Rogers, and people thought that he's probably worth a chance, probably worth a shot. So I think there's quite a few drivers that you could say didn't really get a chance at a top team. And we talk about what's now actually that's what I was looking for. Talking about like a journeyman driver. And I think it's a cricket term, a journeyman guy, someone who would be at multiple teams over the years and just not quite. He's either not as good as the greats, or he just didn't. Not as good as the greats, or he didn't get a chance in a top opportunity. Which obviously in cricket, it's just going to be like, are you good or are you not good? Whereas in motorsport, it's like, do you get in a good car? Do you not get a good car? And Cam McConville didn't really get in a good car most of the time. He was driving for mid-pack machinery, and he just hopped from team to team for a few years. And so, yeah. Oh, here we go. We've got a few things. So I've got Ford and Chev tracks. I've got, I actually haven't got anything for that. It's just something I could talk about. And top Ford and top Chevy. In terms of the championship, I do have a thing to show, so I'll show that for a quick second. We'll find it real quick. Where is it? I don't know where I put it actually. I've got folders that are just total messes. Where is it? Is it here? Top? No, not there at all. All right. Here we go. Come on. Hang on. It might be in. Here we go. Was it General 25? Here we go. Top Ford. What are you doing, computer? All right. Here we go. Okay. So. Oh, it's sneezing. Never mind. All right. It's good. So now I'm gonna show this. Oh, actually, I gotta. Yeah. So apparently, I've accidentally opened it twice. You'll have to see it. Top Ford. Hello. Yeah. So here we go. So I'm gonna move this annoying thing out of the way. All right. So top Ford. You can see in some of these results, Ford's the best car to have. At Taupo, Ford smashed everyone. And this is like 2025 results, before Queensland, obviously, where they're getting some podiums, getting some wins, able to get some good results. I think if Ford was bad, there'd be more than just one Chev team at the front. But that's what we say, isn't it? We say that all the Chev teams are actually just no good, and that's why the Ford teams are always up there. The Ford teams are doing a brilliant job. They just don't have good enough machinery to be winning all the time. That's one argument for it. The other argument is just that oh, you know what? My brain was not going anywhere with that. Apparently, I'm under rested and probably haven't finished eating my dinner, which I do have it here. But you can see quite a few Ford podiums all the time. So I think when it's like that, it's not really need for much refinement. It's just that there's so many different teams just not getting it right week in, week out. Groves, Tickford, WAU, DJR, all struggling, not able to put a consistent challenge together. Whereas Triple Eight, week in, week out, always bring it. I think the only other car that's consistently in the 10 is what? Matt Payne. Just like, yep, we got a car for 7th today. And then just happy to get those results. Queensland, he just did not have the best car and just banking some points, banking some podiums. Then he was there at the bend, came 3rd. Good job. Yeah. And obviously most of the Chev teams are sort of mid-pack teams. You got Matt Stone Racing is a solid midfield team, able to get some good top 10s, able to get some podiums on their day too. BJR have got one good car, and the other cars aren't that good. That's a fact, and Cameron Hill probably doesn't realise that. But he's obviously gone to BJR for to be a Toyota driver. That's the only reason he's gone to BJR is because he wants to drive a Toyota. And Brad's like, I will take the cash, please. Bryce's cash supply has run thin, and so we have to get rid of him. We will take the man with the biggest bag of cash. That's what Brad Jones Racing is, the bought seat team. Premier have shit the bed, and so they've decided that they're probably going to get rid of their drivers. Jimmy Golding is like, yeah, this party's over. I'm going to sign for Blanchard's because they seem to be heading into a better direction. So I don't expect Jimmy Golding to be in the top 10 of the championship next year, but he could probably impress on occasion. And that's just the way it is sometimes. He may never drive for a top team. He may never drive for an upper mid-pack team, but you never know. Maybe Jimmy will do a couple of years at BRT and then go to Brad Jones or something, or go to Team 18. I can see Jimmy going back to Team 18, maybe when Reynolds goes. But I think Jimmy's going to BRT on a multi-year deal, so I think maybe it won't be possible to go to Team 18, especially with how well Anton's doing this year. I expect him to continue those performances in the next few years, so he's pretty set. Tickford are keeping Tommy Randall because they like money, and not because he's a good driver. He's not a terrible driver, but he's not a great driver. He's sort of like 50-50. Sometimes he's good, sometimes he's not good. You're not getting incredible performances. Whereas Ryan Wood seems to be beating him all the time. Ryan Wood, you'd hedge your bets more on signing a Ryan Wood than Tommy Randall. Obviously, this year's been pretty up and down for Ryan Wood, but and so if you were just expecting this to score points, you'd probably sign Tommy Randall. But whereas Ryan Wood probably has a higher ceiling this year, so he just needs to be calmed a little bit, and then he'll be getting big results. The Erebus cars are fast. The drivers are not. The drivers are mistake prone. That's my theory. And that's kind of it. DJR have decided to completely rebuild their team. I don't know why. They've just signed a bunch of star players and then fire everyone else and then just sign a whole bunch of new random people who keep on forgetting to put wheels on properly. You love to see it. And not only that, they also put wheels on too tightly. I think it was at QR. They're trying to talk to Brock Feeney about winning the Sprint Cup, and you can just hear this wheel. They're just struggling to get it up, and I'm like, that's going to be DJR, isn't it? They've just put a wheel on way too tight. Oh, I'm just like, oh, why do they have to screw it up all the time? So yeah, it's my top forward stuff. Yeah. What else? What else do I got? I got a few other things. We'll go through my list. Oh, the Ford Racing. Ford Racing instead of Ford Performance. What a load of rubbish. Like, they're like, oh, we're Ford Racing now, not Ford Performance. It's like they call it Ford Racing to say, oh, we're linking up the production engineering group with the racing engineering group, and so everyone should be, and then they say it's not a branding exercise. If you're going to link them up, wouldn't you call it Ford Performance instead of Ford Racing? I thought it would be if they were focusing a lot more on the racing bit. That's when you call it Ford Racing. And they're like, oh, everything's going to be a lot better now. Yeah, that's not a branding exercise. What a lot of rubbish. I got a theory as well. It's called, is it the theory that the top 12 in the championship don't lose their seats? And this is mainly prompted by Nick Percat in the championship standings. So, let's find Percat and we'll plop him up for us. I mainly just want to find the driver's standings. But I also want to find top 10s of the championship standings for every year, which is I don't think I've got that stuff quite available. I might have it somewhere. What do we got? Here we go. Here's something that I've got called Championship Leaderboard every year. Oh yeah. Okay, this could be it. And I have it in a multitude of groups. This is a delight. It's got all sorts of colors that you can see as well. And it's only up to date to 2021. I got so many damn PowerPoint presentations that sometimes I have magic like this, and it's like, I'm sorry, but it's just not. I can't update every single PowerPoint presentation every year because I make new ones every year as well. So this is just an age group. So purple's for if you're 50, orange is if you're in your 40s, yellow is if you're in your 30s, and green is if you're in your 20s. So you got a nice mix. Obviously, in the 90s, in the late 90s, you got plenty of guys in their 30s, and then it just turns into a bit rarer for guys to be in their 40s, and so it just becomes like a solid mix of like half as 30s, half as 20s. Nice mix of youth and experience, and that's what you end up with. I don't know why I've called 6 in their 30s, 3 in their 20s. Oh, this is the top 10 of the championship. That's what I'm talking about. So in the top 10 of the championship, you've got 5 in the 20s, you've got 4 in the 20s, 3 in the 20s. And sometimes it's just right place, right time for some of these drivers. It's like, Will Davison, top 10 of the championship. He hadn't been in there in a few years. If it was more consistent year on year, but obviously it's motorsport. It's just sort of, it's not random. It just feels like it because it's pretty unusual to see someone consistently in the championship. What is this goats one? Hard to tell. Oh, hang on. Here we go. So 2000 to 2020, how many times are in the top 10 of the championship? Lowndes 17, Tander 16, Whincup 15, Winterbottom 13, Rick Kelly 11, SVG 11, Ingle 9. Oh, yawning. Oh, jeez. So there's all sorts going on here. You got a 3-year improvement, which this is just a headache. I'm just going to ignore that. Hang on, no, this is better down here. The 3-year rise. So 3-year rise theory thing that I've got going on there. Where it's like, what? Well, like, did they go to this? Were they in their 3-year rise? Were they at the same team, or did they move to a better team? So a bit of a mix. Bit of some people at the same team, some people moved to a better team, like Fabian Coulthard did. And some people just had a worse year the next year. Winterbottom in 2005, Alex Davison in 2010, which we did go through. Just a bit of bad luck, but also just like, well, he's not really improving a whole lot. McLaughlin in 15 was just down to bad luck, mechanical failures. Mostert in 15, obviously, he crashed at Bathurst and that ruined the rest of his year. Percat is driving for a worse team. Heimgartner driving for a worse team. Waters in 18, unlucky to be driving an FGX in his second year. LeBrock driving for a crap team. Macca Jones in 2021. Oh, that's for the 3-year rise. So, but in 21, he was actually qualifying quite well, Macca Jones. Gary Jacobson in 2021, driving for a worse team in Team Sydney. And then the one over here I've got pending. So Peter for his 3rd year. So we can answer some of these questions. Forward in his 3rd year. No, that's denied. Smith in his 3rd year. How did he go in 22? I think he did worse. Goddard did not get signed for 22 because I'm pretty sure, I don't know if I can find the article, but I'm pretty sure his management team decided to go away from MSR. I'm pretty sure that's what I read at Speed Cafe. Kostecki, I guess this might be Jake Kostecki for his 3rd season. It was better. Don't think it was better in the championship though. Then you got teams. Oh, geez, there's another headache. Some of these headaches, man. And then improvements and declines, which I like the colors, but it's kind of hard to work out what's going on here. If they're green, it means they're doing better. If they're orange, it means they're doing worse, which is pretty interesting. Whoops. Hard to tell what's going on there. What is going on? Where's Van Gisbergen? Oh, I've called him SVG there and then Van Gisbergen there. Can I have some consistency? So, pretty hard to improve every single year, but I do counter if you win the championship every year or if you finish the same result the next year. Whincup though, it's a decline if you don't, if you decline the previous year. So Whincup declined from 2017 to 18 and then stayed in the same spot for 2019, so that counts as a decline. 2020 is a decline, 21 was an improvement, just in terms of championship position. So that's definitely a PowerPoint presentation. I do like the age group one. This is based on. Do I have it? Do I have it right here? Yeah, here we go. I used to use exercise books back in the day. So I got my colours here. You got yellow, purple, green, red for people in their 40s, and 50 for guys purple for the 50s. Yeah, just I just used to do all this in exercise books, so I thought that. Oh, hang on here. This might be better. This one looks kind of better. And the page is kind of falling out too. Got all sorts going on. Yeah, that's how I started before I started putting everything on the computer. That's from I call when I have a random notebook, I just call it stuff, and then I put what the date is from. So that's from February 2017 to July the 12th, 2017. This only goes up to 2021. It would be good to fill it out again. We've got a whole another 3 seasons to go through to add to it. And then in a few months' time, that'll be the end of it. So, yeah. What else? What else can I talk about? I think is that everything that I've got? What's that? Oops, I accidentally turned the torch on my phone. Good times. Top 12 don't lose their seats theory. That's what I was. That's why I wanted championship positions. I need, sometimes there's something happening here, but other times there's nothing happening there at all. Right, so here's the top 12. Right. Yeah. So did they? We gotta look at who lost their seat, who didn't lose their seat. So we got goats. I'm going to copy this. Move to and create copy. Right. And we're going to change this to lost seats. I don't know if I'm showing it at all, so I need to make sure I'm doing that. And then we're going to go through it. We'll do this together. Well, not really, because I know what's going on. Win Cup, that's a retirement. That's not a lost seat, but that's kind of the only reason. So if you lost your seat, like you got sacked, but I'm only counting it for if they went off the grid at the end of that year. So down here, Fabian Coulthard lost his seat. He's gone. Macca Jones, he's been kept forever. Jacobson got kept for 21. Jake Smith. Zane Goddard lost seat, you could say. Jake Kostecki got kept. Reynolds, Heimgartner, LeBrock, Pye, forward, Hazelwood, Slade, Courtney, Winterbottom. And then a couple of guys lost their seats. And who was a rookie in 2022? I reckon we expanded the grid a little bit in 22. I don't want to count Win Cup because it was his last season, but he didn't lose. He retired. He didn't lose his seat. So I'll just call that green for retirement. McLaughlin, we'll put that green. In 2020. Holdsworth lost his seat. That's probably the highest position there. So that breaks the theory. Because he was 11th in the championship in 2020. So that breaks the theory. But for the most part, so it must be top 11 then. Well, hang on, it can't be top 11. Just top 10 never lose their seat. So if you're outside the top 10 of the championship, boom, see you later. Reynolds, Courtney, Heimgartner, LeBrock, Rick Kelly, retired. Hazelwood, Bolwood, Jones, Pither lost his seat. In 2020, which was Team Sydney. Gary Jacobson, Jack Smith, Alex Davis also lost his seat. Here we go, 2019. Slade lost his seat. Di Silvestro, she sort of chose not to continue for 2020. That's the way I understood it. I think Paul Morris was saying that she should have negotiated to keep to go to Triple Eight and replace Lowndes, but she just wasn't able to get that done. So that's why that ended. So hard to say. I think I'll probably put green for that one. Jimmy Golding lost his seat. A bit of a too little too late. By the time we got to October when GRM announced they were pulling out, that was just unfortunate for them. Gary Jacobson obviously found his feet somewhere. 2018, Craig Lowndes retired. It was his own choice. Garth Tander, not by choice. Michael Caruso, not by choice. Holdsworth ended up landing on his feet. Tim Blanchard retired. Stanaway, Hazelwood. There's not too many lost seats there. 2017, though. Well, I know of a few off the top of my head. Todd Kelly retired. Jason Bright retired. Guess just couldn't be bothered trying to find a new seat. Dale Wood retired. Alex Rullo lost his seat. Taz Douglas lost his seat. James Moffat lost his seat. Bit of a changing of the guard situation because Moffat was replaced with Jimmy Golding. And LDM were going, what did they do? It's a bit of a mix. So one of those entries for LDM was used by 23 Red for 2018, and the other one was sold. So 2018, I think the other one got bought by Tickford, so they could run the fourth car for Stanaway. I reckon that's as good as it. No one else retired in 2017. 2016. Peter lost his seat. Heimgartner lost his seat. Shay Davies lost his seat. But he had it because he paid money for it. 2015. Serious. David Wall retired. I know that. Ash Walsh lost his seat. The next year they put Aaron Russell with David Reynolds. Yeah, so the grid sort of expanded between 15 and 16. That's a weird little thing there. But 2016 and 2017 and 2018, they had like a happy number. I think it was 26 drivers on the grid. And that was, they were able to manage that. Drop down 2 for 2019 24 car grid. Back up, hang on, no. Yeah, it's been the same since 2019, except for in 22, I think it expanded again. And obviously you got Tim Slade with BRT, so yeah, a bit going on. 2014, actually, I need to put here in case somebody comments. So sorry for everyone getting a little headache there. What else? 2014. Who retired in 2014? Jack Perkins lost his seat. Robert Dahlgren, I think, returned to Sweden. That's what it was as I understood it, but he didn't do a very good job in 2014 anyway. Russell Ingall retired. That's about it. 2013, Alex Davison lost his seat because Charlie Schwartz thought that Jack Perkins was better than Alex Davison for some reason. Tony D'Alberto, I don't think he retired. I think he just didn't have an option. Alex Premer lost his seat, pretty sure. Dean Fiore couldn't find an opportunity for 2014. Maro Engel also. Quite a few losses there. Jono Webb actually retired. That's sort of it. Pretty rare. I mean, for all the retirements, a lot more of them happen down the bottom of the grid, you can see, but also plenty of people lose their seat below that top 10 mark. 2012. Stephen Johnson sort of forced to retire. Michael Patrizzi, I think he just probably couldn't find an opportunity. Same with Steve Owen. Carl Reindler. Taz Douglas. Greg Murphy. He just couldn't find a deal, apparently. I was under the impression that he had opportunities, but he didn't want to take them. And I think that was really part of it. He didn't want to drive a Nissan, so that was the end of it for him. And also, obviously, they wanted to sign some exciting talent in Moffat and Caruso, which they did, and it was pretty good for them. 2011, Alex Davison lost his seat. Barguana lost his seat. He had a bag of cash and nowhere to land. Dumbrell retired. And Luffy lost his seat. 2010. Not a whole lot. People don't usually retire in the top 10. But it looks like top 10 is definitely marked because of guys like Alex Davison and Lee Holdsworth. Stephen Richards lost his opportunity. Jason Richards, I want to say willfully retired. He didn't mean to, but that was he vacated his seat. That was his decision. What else we got? Riccardello missed out. I don't really know for sure about Riccardello, if he actually just decided he didn't want to continue or they decided not to keep him because they wanted to put Reynolds in. Probably Stratco said, "Can we get someone better?" Andrew Thompson didn't get another opportunity, but he obviously went on to win the Super 2 Championship in 2011. 2009. McConville retired. What else? Jack Perkins just didn't have an opportunity for 2010. Patrizzi missed out as well. Dale Wood missed out. Marcus Marshall missed out. Marshall actually ran his own team at the start of 2009, which is just one of those interesting things to think about. But he obviously didn't get signed. Not exactly sure if he just decided not to sign up for 2010, but it probably wasn't the case. He probably did want to continue, obviously setting up his own team. Big financial risk. And didn't see him at Bathurst the next year, I don't think. So yeah. I think he did drive for Kelly's at some stage, Marcus Marshall. Or was it Perkins? I think he drove for Perkins in 2007. Right, 2008, obviously you got Mark Skaifey. You've got Paul Morris down here. And Andrew Jones stepped aside. Good man. Shane Price missed out. Andrew Thompson missed out. Kane Scott missed out. Patrizzi was lucky to have 2 successive years in 08 and 09. What else are we looking at? I think that's it for 09. 07. Dean Canto missed out. He did an interview with the 8 Sofa. He said that he just didn't have a bag of cash, so that was the end of it for him. Max Wilson missed out. Same as Jason Barguana, but he came back in 2009. Steve Owen missed out for 08. Because they wanted to put Tony D'Alberto in. Probably just didn't rock up with a big enough bag of cash. Radicic. Well, he ended up becoming a co-driver at HSV, so I don't know if he wanted to become a full-timer again, but yeah, I'm going to put him as red for that. I'm not really sure what the story is there. Be good to see if I don't think he mentioned in the V8 South interview that he did. I mean, he just talked about like Triple Eight, and he talked about driving for Dick Johnson Racing and how great that was, and Team Kiwi stuff. Not sure if he might have to go back and look at that. Obviously, he was the Super Black team principal when they came back in 2014, and that's pretty cool to see the rat back in the paddock. What else in 2007? John Bow actually retired. Simon Wills willfully retired. Jack Perkins did not willfully retire. He did come back and do a bunch of races, so I wouldn't count that exactly because he did technically have a seat. Ellinger lost his seat. And that's it. 06. Where are we looking? It's Will Davison. Brad Jones. Brad Jones retired at the start of 2007. Andrew Jones retired eventually in 08. Luffy lost his seat in 06, unfortunately. Marcus Marshall lost his seat for 07. He did do a couple of races for Perkins though, so I wouldn't say no. He managed to just do a few races every now and then, so not too bad for him. And he wasn't shocking. He was driving for Paul Crookshanks in 2006, and that team just had issues every race, and they regularly ran down the back. Jose Fernandez did not get another opportunity. Steve Ellery, that was the end of it. Why have I got him listed for 06? Alright, whatever. What else? Alan Ricardello in 06. Did not get another opportunity. But obviously he wanted to have a go a couple of times, so yeah, interesting. Ricardello was a production car. I mean, I think is he still doing production cars? Like a 9-time production car champion. I think. Also sports sedans. Might be sports sedan champion. He's just like a legend of sports sedans. He's had a little dabble on supercars. In 06, he split the seat time with Jose Fernandez. And in 2010, he obviously got a full season with the Kellys. But the Kelly cars weren't really equal in a sense. It wasn't the best situation for everyone, unless you were Rick and Todd. But even Todd wasn't having a great time. Only one driver was, and that was Rick. 05. Ambrose, obviously. Not a whole lot. Where are we looking? Ellery, Redis, Seaton did not willfully retire. He lost his seat. Poor baby. What else we got? Paul Wheel retired. Craig Baird lost his seat. It was interesting in 05 to 06 that Craig Baird returned as a co-driver. Dave Bernard lost his seat. Jason Bhagwan and Gregorita did not have a seat the next year. Matthew White. Anthony Tratt, I'm pretty sure, retired from full-time racing because he became a co-driver for HSV and stuck it in the fence at Bathurst. Simon Wills did not compete in 2006, probably not by choice because they had to go to court. Alex Davison out as well. Steve Owen did actually find a spot for 06. There's a bit of that going on. 04. Can't think of any retirements, but we'll find someone. Luffy lost his seat from DJR. What got Wheels? Got Beard. Tony Longhurst lost his seat. I think he lost his seat. I don't think he retired. Perkins sacked him. Dale Bree lost his seat. Rest in peace. And Mark Noski missed out as well. No retirements in 04. You don't always have drivers retiring. Yeah, sometimes you do. It was like almost every year. Most years you got someone who goes, yeah, that's me done. 03. What do we got in 03? Not a whole lot. Reginald Morris Cantor lost his seat. Mark Larkham retired. Winkup lost his seat. Noski still going. Dumbrell, Bernard. Bernard's up there. Baird. Was Baird there in 04? Yeah, Team Kiwi. Gregorita lost his seat. David Thexton. I don't know. Did he retire? He did do a few of the races in 04, but he didn't qualify. Rodney Forbes, we assume. Well, he probably would have retired, right? Because Daddy's cash is king. Team did go to court, though, so yeah, you don't know. 2002. Longhurst didn't race in 03. He drove for Briggs in 02. Neil Crompton retired in 02. Larry Perkins in 02. Cam McLean, I would say, it just sort of ran out for him. John Faulkner, good question. I wouldn't have said retired from main game Supercars driving because I reckon he still ran around and did stuff. But who knows? It is 02 after all. I think they just ran out of money. McDougall gone. Romano gone in 02? Yeah. Romano was an interesting one because I think at the start of the year he just racked up menace points and then he just didn't finish the year. But in 01 he was a Holden Young Lions driver, helping out with the team. Not sure how much longer I'm going to go with this because apparently I've gone through all of my things. So we might call it a stream. It did obviously mellow out a little bit here. So yeah, probably gonna call it a stream tonight, guys. Obviously getting pretty tired. Not next weekend's not Bathurst, but the weekend after is Bathurst. So I'll definitely be watching that. putting up a little spread, having a few drinks, having a good time, and organizing my life around watching Bathurst, because that's what the weekend should all be about. And I should say, no, I can't do it. I'm watching Bathurst. That's what happens when you own your own house. You can say, nah, can't. I'm watching Bathurst. Friday through Sunday, I'm watching Bathurst. So, yep. We have to make Thursday shopping day. But obviously, I will be back next Sunday for more Supercars chat. See you guys next time. Bye bye.